If you told me at the beginning of 2023 that I'd be greeting the year with a Harry Potter game, and not just any Harry Potter game, but a Harry Potter open world RPG that's actually quite good, I'd have said you were off your rocker. But lo and behold, that's where we are, and this is what we've got. And I'm glad to say that I'm most pleasantly surprised. And so here we have Hogwarts Legacy. Quick one, guys. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the video. It is a big help. It costs absolutely nothing, takes just a second, and is a big help in supporting the channel. Hogwarts Legacy is the latest game by the studio Portkey Games, set in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. It's a faithful one-and-done story set in the late 1800s, but still involving all the things that you know and love about the wizarding world. I'm actually quite surprised that this game got made, given the huge amount of controversy surrounding the development of it and its relationship to the creator of the whole intellectual property, J.K. Rowling. And because others have already spoken at greater length and in greater detail about all of that, I'll be sticking my nose well and truly out of that whole discussion, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, moving swiftly on, after sinking an hour or so into character creation, and you will with this much customization, you'll get straight into things. But fret not, if you're not happy with your character's starting attire, then the game features an awesome Transmog system, much like the Glamour system in Final Fantasy XIV. This basically lets you equip any armor or equipment, assuming you're of high enough level, and then change its appearance to something else that you've had in your inventory. Trust me, Transmog will never get old, especially with some of the amazing robes available throughout the game. So, back to the game. As stated before, Hogwarts Legacy is a free-form open-world role-playing game set within the titular wizarding world created by Rowling. The game starts off with you, a protagonist, a new 5th-year student who has been invited to attend Hogwarts, which is quite odd if you stop and think about it, because basically in the UK, you start high school as a first year. But oddly enough, we're never actually given any information about where you've been studying for the past 4 years of life, or even why you're being invited to Hogwarts as a 5th year. But that's certainly not game-breaking. Lots of games have their protagonist be something of a tabula rasa, so that the player can focus on putting as much of themselves into the character going forward, so I can't really fault it for that. So anyway, as you're a student, you'll be required to do things that students of Hogwarts do. Attend classes, learn spells, interact with and help out your fellow classmates, get into trouble with a Weasley, and all in all, just be a good, well-rounded student of Hogwarts. Which is just great. But unlike the other students, what makes you special is your ability to tap into an ancient form of magic called Ancient Magic. This is a strange, bluey, glowy form of magic that has some odd properties and a few decent utilities in combat, and just happens to be at the central premise of the game. So, the point about the game is to get to the heart of this thing. Where did it come from? What's the scope and breadth of this ability? And why can you and only you actually see it? When the game kicks in, you'll enjoy huge elements about the open world aspect of it all. You'll be free to explore and roam around the Scottish Highlands, explore the castle itself, which is gorgeous and absolutely huge in scope. You'll be able to roam from some of the tallest towers down to the lake, the Quidditch pitch, which you can't use, and even the quaint little town of Hogsmeade. And every part of this is a testament to the love that the devs have for this world, and that's been translated into the game. I mean, you can spend absolutely ages going from one end of the castle all the way to the other, and you'll be completely lost. But after traversing it once or twice, you can't be expected to do it forever, of course, which is why you'll definitely be making use of the very helpful instant travel facility known as Floo Powder Network. This is a fast travel facility and an absolute lifesaver in terms of time, and something that you will categorically make use of. Now let's talk combat. As this is a game about wizards and witches, 3 guesses what class your character is going to be in this game. Yep, it ain't no barbarian or knight or paladin, son. So if you're used to playing as a melee character in most other RPGs, then you're in for a treat with the combat system in this game. Hogwarts Legacy uses a fast-paced, real-time combat system much like most other RPGs of its day. You'll be using all the tricks in your spellbook to take on a plethora of enemies across the game, from goblins to spiders to poachers. Everyone has a fair chance of getting a spell to the face from you. The spells you learn in class have an actual utility in battle, which I think is just marvelous. It totally makes doing special assignments for your teachers worth it, if you know that doing so will yield you an interesting new spell that you can add to your arsenal. In fact, some of the best, like the unforgivable curses, can only be learned through side missions and by going off the beaten path for a while, which is just how it should be in my estimation. With a fairly gradual learning curve and a definite requirement to master the Protego spell, you'll be a spell slinger without peer in no time at all. In fact, I said in more than one episode of my Let's Play series that this game has, in my opinion, the most versatile and best use of magics that I've encountered in a while. The spells you learn aren't just for show, there's a real utility to them. Lumos isn't just for lighting up darkened rooms, it's also necessary for repelling Devil Snare. Fire isn't just about burning unkempt foliage, it's for making the undead, dead again. And there's nothing quite like knocking back rocks and enemies with the occasional bombarder to the face. I think the devs did an absolutely wonderful job with this combat system, so well done to them. In addition to all of the above, you'll be interacting with a whole bunch of fierce and fantastic beasts, so get ready for diricals, dugbogs, scraphorns, hippogriffs, and more. And here's the coolest thing about it all. At a point in the game, you're given the means to go out and actually catch some of these suckers Pokemon style. Hell, there's even a facility to house, feed, pet, and breed all the critters that you catch along the way, so get to it. I personally never got fully into attempting to capture all of the creatures, because there was just so much other interesting stuff to do in the game that caught my attention. But if you're into this sort of monster capture thing, then it's definitely there for you, and having it there certainly enriches the overall experience of the game. You'll also be able to ride on some of the larger mythical creatures that you catch, which is absolutely brilliant. Add in the ability to tailor your character to look exactly like you like via the Transmog. Did I mention the Transmog? And you've got an all-round winner chicken dinner here in my book. As you progress through the Wizarding world, you'll begin to get hints of something more sinister at work in the world around you. You'll begin to notice the outright unfairness that all the other races have compared to the wizards and witches. The goblins, trolls, centaurs, house elves, and many other sentient beings in the world all somehow partake in the magic of the world, but none of them seem to have the illustrious position of being on top of the social hierarchy that the wizards and witches actually do. If you stop and consider the witches and wizards to be somewhat progressive, especially in this world where magic is seemingly accessible by everyone, then deep questions arise. We do know, or we are told, of a goblin rebellion back in the middle and late end of the 1700s, no doubt the result of this very social inequality, and the goblins' weird stance on property rights. However, as a result of its spectacular failure, the goblins are treated as something of a second-class citizen. In fact, a significant part of the game deals with a goblin who's able to respond to this very social slight when he comes into contact with a unique form of power. Unfortunately, the moral implications of this are never fully explored. It's one thing to say, let's stop this bad egg, but it's another to ask, what are the conditions that have allowed this bad egg to come about? Maybe there's something massively unfair about the whole system. But alas, these questions are never addressed or never even truly countenanced. Moreover, with regard to the magic system, this world is filled with magic. Magic is used as a massive crutch for absolutely everything from gardening to cooking to housework to meal prep. And that's all very well and good and all, but as a consequence, we don't see any real form of industrialization, which is really quite odd if you think about it. The Wizarding world ought to be, and probably could be, centuries ahead of the Muggles in terms of its abilities and lifestyles because of magic. But everyone is very much in step with the pace of Muggle progression. So what we see is Muggles living in a 19th century world, and wizards living in a similar 19th century world. I probably shouldn't get too far into a critique of the magic system in this game and the whole universe as such, because it does seem to effectively have no limits to it. I mean, casting a Poxy Lumos spell and casting a friggin' Unforgivable curse might have differing effects on the mental health of the mage using them, but there's absolutely no cost outside of a small cooldown to the player. But I suppose that's not a fair critique that can be leveled against the devs of this game, or even really at J.K. Rowling. At moments like this, I have to remind myself that this world, and the characters in it, were made at a specific point in time by a woman who wanted to tell a specific story about a specific set of characters, the focus of which was never really about the cost of using magic in it, but rather about the fact that in this world there is magic, and it is magical. And I think that sums up my feeling on this game. It doesn't do absolutely everything right, but what it is trying to do, it does so well. And I'm speaking, of course, of Transmog. That's all I've got to say. Get out of here and play some Hogwarts Legacy.